Good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? Good, good. So before we get started, just some housekeeping to let you know, we are going to tape this today. We're going to actually, the goal is to actually capture this, share this through the social media platforms, so that everyone that's at school today, at work today, wherever they may be today, that's in District 62 has the access to this information to see the candidates together and to see the candidates talking about the issues that would be of most importance to those potential voters. So with that, if we could turn phones off, so if they go off, we don't have that. So we're going to tape it. We're also broadcasting live via Facebook Live, and I think you do Periscope as well?
That's what we're attempting to.
Awesome, awesome. Because we're, as an association, are trying to find ways to get information out beyond the 25 or 35 that come once a month. So with that in mind, we'll get ready to get started in just 1 minute. My name is Michael Davis, and in front of you, you've got, I guess, our agenda and our upcoming meetings. As you can see, we've booked our meetings out through October, and what we try to do is really be to pivot from being just a business association to a business community association that tackles and has speakers and topics that will be of interest to the community. So when we say that everyone is welcome from anywhere to come and participate, we mean that. So that's why we booked the kind of speakers we have. You know, from the seminars we'll have with digital marketing to the Fulton County Manager, Dick Anderson, coming in the fall. So with that, the other sheet in front of you is our candidate forum sheet. And you'll see there, you've got the websites for the candidates to look at after today, their names, their occupation, and also our moderator information. And the goal here is to get as much information as we can today. On your tables, there's a sheet of paper. If you have any questions you want to submit today, we ask that you write that down, raise your hand, and we'll take the questions and give it to our moderator, Mr. Carr, and then he'll drive the show from there.
Ready?
Yes, we are. I'll give it to you. Hold on a second. Okay. Hold on. Can someone get the door in the back? Because it's going to be in the audio. Yeah. In a normal meeting, we're not taping. That wouldn't be an issue. Sorry about that. Yeah, pull two.
Couple of folks on the outside.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Because I won't get it taped. Yeah. Good morning. Welcome to the Camp Creek Business Association April meeting. Today we're very excited to have 4 candidates who are all running for Georgia House District 62. The entire meeting today is dedicated to having a candidate forum by which we will have be moderated by Kip Carr, and we'll have your questions from the floor as well as other questions, and we'll be taping this and sharing this with the members that can't come, but the community at large. With that, let me introduce our moderator. Our moderator for today is Mr. Kip Carr, who those of us in public life, he is no stranger. Mr. Carr has more than 25 years of extensive federal, state, and local government experience in a number of leadership positions. He's also an entrepreneur and the owner of his own consulting firm, and currently he is the treasurer of the Georgia Democratic Party. So with that, let's have a warm welcome, and Mr. Kip Carr, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Davis. How's everyone doing today? It is certainly a pleasure to be here with you. And I remember, it's hard to believe it was exactly 90 days ago, January 28th, when I got a call from Michael asking would I be interested in being here. And let me just say that there is nowhere else that I could think to be than here on Camp Creek, because this is such a very important race. And this was right about the same time that I had decided, that I had announced on Facebook that I was not going to get in 62. But you know, for the most part, former candidates just kind of disappear off into the sunset. So I'm blessed that I'm able to be involved on this side. So what I'd like to do right now, and we have some elected officials here, and I'm going to recognize you in a moment. But what I'd like to start with is the introduction of our House District 62 candidates. And we're going to begin with my immediate right and continue down the line. Right next to me is Aaron Johnson. Aaron is a management analyst for Fulton County Government. Born and raised in Moultrie, Colquitt County, Georgia. Aaron is a graduate of Morris Brown College, Wolverines, where he majored in paralegal studies. Professionally, Aaron has worked on every level of government. In addition to working on the county level, he has served as constituent services specialist for the city of Atlanta, staff assistant to former State House Government Affairs Chairman Bob Holmes, and Government Affairs Manager for the American College of Rheumatology, a national doctors association. Additionally, Aaron worked as a finance coordinator for the Shirley Franklin for Mayor campaign back in 2001, and later served as Deputy Executive Director of the Democratic Party of Georgia, where he also served as Special Assistant to former Governor Roy Barnes. Civic duty has always been the forefront of his life. Aaron served as a board member of Citizens for South Fulton Now, a grassroots organization that worked on cityhood concerns in South Fulton. He is a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, where he is co-chair of the Georgia District's Political Action Committee and treasurer of his local chapter. He has served as a parent volunteer with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts of America and chair of the Stowaltell Elementary School's All-Pro Dads program. Currently, he is a member of the Fulton County School Superintendent's Community Council, vice chair of the Fulton County Democratic Party, and board member of the Georgia Association of Democratic County Chairs. Aaron also serves as the Democratic Party Georgia State on the State Committee, representing Commission District 6, I believe, and the Committee on County Affairs, which works to build local county parties. Aaron lives in Cliftondale with his wife, Alana, who I believe is with us today, and children Sierra, Aaron, Miles, and Austin. They are members of the Eden Church. Next to Mr. Aaron Johnson, we have Rafer Johnson. Rafer Johnson, the voice of House District 62, bold, brilliant, courageous leader with an outstanding record. He has managed over $1.5 billion in assets and led small and large teams in his private, public, and nonprofit sector experience. His portfolio covers healthcare, transportation, housing, and hospitality industries, including Hotel Connections, American Foundation for the Blind, and Delta. At Delta, he currently serves in a dual role of flight attendant and elected leader for 22,000 of his fellow colleagues. As chair of the Fulton County Housing Authority, he was called to lead the organization during one of the greatest modern migrations due to a natural disaster, Hurricane Katrina. Rafer led the agency during the massive relocation of Gulf Coast families with a dignified balance of care and fairness to Fulton County citizens. When the community was seeking their right to vote for cityhood of South Fulton, Rafer was chosen by clergy, community leaders, and neighbors to lead the cause as the first chair of the South Fulton Now Committee, giving thousands of people engaged and actively participating. His past leadership roles include Leadership Atlanta, president of Delta's Black Employee Network, where he founded Delta Global Mentoring Program to realize individual standards of excellence. He has been a panelist on U.S. Ambassador Andrew Young's Foundation Annual Summit at Morehouse, as well as featured in numerous media, the AJC, Black Enterprise, the CW, and NBJ in Contact. Rafer and his husband Kelly, who I believe joins us today, attend Hillside International Truth Center, and they also reside in the Cliftondale community. Next to Rafer Johnson, we have Joshua Butler IV. Joshua began his foray into the world of entrepreneurship and financial independence at the age of 20. While still in college, Joshua started the first of many successful businesses. Understanding the old adage, know your audience, Joshua began a moving and logistics company, University Storage, dedicated to servicing the transient Atlanta college community. Just 6 years later, Joshua acquired a 20-year moving and logistics company, merging it with his own self-started business with the mission of employee disenfranchised African-American men. Recognizing the need to diversify his business options, Joshua turned to real estate acquisition. Joshua purchased his first apartment building at age 25 and later went on to purchase several single-family homes, additional apartment buildings, and an office complex. Always looking for a new challenge and seizing the growing opportunities available, Joshua became the CFO of Meta Music. In this position, he worked closely with hip-hop artists Bubba Sparks, Pastor Troy, and Outkast. Under his direction, Meta Music played a major role in producing the soundtrack of the Tom Hanks movie, The Lady Killers. In 2005, Joshua founded Yassine Corporation, a full-service multimedia music and entertainment company. Today, he works with music artists such as Neo and Wyclef Jean, and high-profile business clients such as BET and Hooters to produce, direct, shoot, edit television segments, documentaries, videos, promotional materials, and websites. For the last 4 years, Joshua Butler IV has gained valuable experience and developed integral relationships by serving as legislative manager for the Honorable Dexter Sharper of House District 177, which I believe is in Valdosta. Joshua also serves the Fulton County HIV/AIDS Task Force, whose mission is to stop the spread of this deadly disease. He is vice president of the historic Williamsburg Homeowners Association. So for those of you who do not know, Williamsburg is in the city of East Point, Georgia. And last but finally not least, ladies and gentlemen, we have to the immediate left of Mr. Butler, William K. Bodie. William K. Bodie Jr. was born in Atlanta and raised in South Fulton County. He was a graduate of Banneker High in 1995. He also graduated from Valdosta State with a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. He received his JD from the Mercer University Walter George School of Law in Macon. William Bodie has been licensed to practice law in Georgia since 2005. He has worked as an assistant public defender with the Fulton County Public Defender's Office from 2005 to 2008. He is the co-founder and managing partner of the Bodie McKnight Law Firm, with offices both in Douglas and Fulton County. William is actively involved in professional organizations such as the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, the National Bar Association, the Gate City Bar Association, the Carr Bar Association, the Clayton County Bar Association, the Cab Lawyers Association, and the Northeast Bar Association. He is also a member of the South Fulton Chamber of Commerce, the Douglas County Chamber, the Small Business Society of Douglas County, the City of Douglasville Housing Group, and the Douglas County Democratic Party. His community service through nonprofit organizations includes being an advisory council member and community liaison for the Fulton Leadership Academy in East Point, an organizer and conference speaker for Let Us Make Man, and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. William is a well-sought-after legal analyst and has been featured in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Douglas County Sentinel, the Fulton County Daily Report, and Ebony Magazine. He has also been interviewed regarding high-profile cases by Fox 5, 11 Live, Channel 2, and DC TV 23 in Douglas. He is a legal commentator and town hall speaker for the People Station V103 and WAOK 1380. William Bodie is a lifelong member of Antioch Baptist Church North in Atlanta, Georgia. Please put your hands together for keeping protocol. I would like to acknowledge our elected officials who are in the House. I do see the Honorable Myron Cook, who is the Mayor Pro Tem of the city on the other side of American Signature Furniture, and that is East Point, Georgia.
Good morning, everyone.
Do we have any other elected officials that are joining us today? Hearing none, we will now move to the candidates who are not candidates for House District 62, who have blessed us with your presence today for a brief introduction. We will begin with those candidates who I see at the wall. Would you please rise?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clint Rafer, and I'm a candidate for the Fulton County Solicitor General's office. I've got a 20-year career in the Fulton County DA's office, and I'm looking to become your chief prosecutor for all the misdemeanor cases that occur in our community. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Charles. Excuse me. My name is Charles Rambo. I am a candidate for Fulton County Sheriff. 27 years of progressive experience in the office of sheriff and the proven jail reformer. You'll get a chance to see that video online that actually helped bring the jail from under the federal consent decree. iSheriffRambo.com. And thank you all for having us and introducing us this morning.
Good morning. I'm Belinda Edwards. I'm a candidate for Fulton County Superior Court, specifically Judge Winsonetta Lane seat. I have over 30 years of judicial, legal, and business experience. I'm the former chief judge of Fulton County Juvenile Court. I've represented the city of Atlanta, Atlanta Public Schools, and Morris Brown College. And I would ask for your consideration in your vote. My website is www.belindaedwards.org. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Phillips. I am a candidate for Georgia State Senate District 35. I'm a lifelong resident of South Fulton. I grew up in College Park, graduated from Lakeshore High School. That was Westlake before Westlake. And I've been here most of my life. And now my beautiful wife and I choose to raise our 4 children here. So this is a lifelong passion for me. I spent the last 30 years, 15 in private sector and 15 in local government. And I just believe that those 2 different sets of experience will allow me to really serve the citizens of this community in a way that I think will move us forward and allow us to make more progress. I would certainly appreciate your consideration and your vote coming up on May 24th. Early voting starts on May 2nd. My name again is Tony Phillips, and I'm a candidate for Georgia State Senate. Thank you.
Do we have any other candidates that are on the May 24th ballot that have decided to bless us with their presence today? We want to thank those candidates for joining us. And if there are any individuals who wish to receive additional information, hopefully they will stick around for the end of the forum and make your concerns known with those candidates. Thank you so much. I'd like to recognize some special individuals that are also in the house today. We have a conversation, Michael Davis, about South Fulton and Camp Creek. You cannot effectively have a conversation without talking about the South Fulton Chamber of Commerce, and we've been blessed by the presence of the present CEO, Y. Diane Matthews.
Good morning.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews, for your attendance and for all that you do for South Fulton. This event, ladies and gentlemen, will be a moderated candidate forum. That is why you see me today, and that is why you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth right now. All questions are to be asked by the moderator only. Audience questions, and I hope that you have some really good questions, are to be submitted, and I will have the ultimate discretion on questions that are asked of the candidates. Due to the short time window, we decided for the candidates not to have opening statements, but rather to have the moderator introduce the candidates, which I just did, and then we will go directly into the forum. The candidates will be given 2 minutes for closing statements. The candidates will not be provided questions in advance of the forum. So the questions that you hear today, none of these gentlemen have seen any of these questions. Okay? I would also like to recognize from the Office of the Honorable Marvin Arrington Jr., Fulton County Commissioner Jennifer Freeman, who will be assisting me as timekeeper.
Good morning, everyone.
What we'll do is the candidates will draw lots to determine the order of speaking, and I'm going to pass that out now. Please take one and pass. Thank you. I will ask questions randomly from a bank of questions that some or all candidates may be asked. And this will be the time that if you have any good questions to jot them down and get those up here to me. Candidates' answers are limited to 9 seconds. The timekeeper will hold them aside with 30 seconds left. Order of speaking will be determined by drawing lots. Okay, so.
1.
Okay, so we just, okay.
Rafer's 2. Others 3.
Who's 3?
Joshua.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. And just some housekeeping, all right. Moderator is in charge and maintains control of the forum. Moderator is responsible for demonstrating absolute fairness, neutrality, and dignity for all participants. Applause should be held until the end of the forum. All candidates may answer all questions. Issues, not personalities are to be addressed. We don't do any do you beat your wife type of questions here. No speech making or pontificating will be allowed. I know we do have some attorneys up here, so govern yourselves accordingly. The moderator does have the right to rule on questions. No, and this is not a debate. So contrary to what you have seen on television, no direct rebuttals will be allowed in the format. And why that is that takes time away from this process. And as Mr. Davis said at the beginning, this will be captured on YouTube. We're trying to stream it live on Facebook. I'm attempting to periscope it, but we'll see how that goes. But it is very important that once this is over, that you share this on your page, because there's so many people here in House District 62 that needs this information. All right, so are we ready?
Yes.
Are we ready? Thank you so much. My question for Mr. And we're going to start in the order of the lot drawing. My first question is one of the very important issues that we know we have here along the corridor, House District 62, is the issue of affordable housing. And what I'm curious to know is what are some very specific steps that you would do as a legislator to take to address the issue of affordable housing? We'll start with Mr. Bowden.
Well, Mr. Carr, that's a great question. Currently, I'm a part of the Douglas County Housing Group, which has changed its name to the Douglasville Housing Committee. And one of the things we do on that committee is try to seek out affordable housing, and this is through the University of Georgia Initiative on Housing. It's a grant-sponsored program for small to rural cities throughout the state of Georgia. And what we do is go out and connect with other cities to locate different developers, and also we sponsor, or we're in relationship with banks as well. And at that point in time, we get information, we distribute information, and it gives us an opportunity to try to filter out affordable housing. And what does affordable housing mean? We need affordable housing for students, we need affordable housing for seniors, and we need affordable housing for middle class families. So what we do is try to identify different entities to associate ourselves with the Douglasville Housing Committee. And so that's what I would do on the state level as well. I would try to identify organizations and entities to try to drive in more affordable housing in House District 62 by associating myself with those very entities.
Yes.
Okay. This is near and dear to my heart, given my role at the Housing Authority for Fulton County and my experience living in New York as well and here in Georgia. We live in a relatively suburban area, so you're talking about Fulton. I used to live in Princeton Lakes, and now Aaron and I live in the same subdivision down on Stonewall Tail. So we live in a community that is predominantly suburban. We do have urban and rural areas as well. One of the things that we have to do a better job of, and we should expand the programs, is the percentages of affordable housing in new developments. And I think that the opportunity there for all of us is to spread out and not build projects. So we don't want to build projects in our neighborhoods that would then impact the money that we have invested as homeowners into the area, and businesses like this in the area wanting to attract a different clientele. So for us, the opportunity is to spread out, work with developers. We offer, in the Housing Authority, what we did is we offered bonds that would then use that money towards a certain percentage of the buildings that would then go towards affordable housing. What I love about that is that if you take, for example, an apartment complex, there are apartment complexes that I would point out to you that you have no idea are affordable housing. That I've walked in, and as a former apartment renter, that I've walked in and went, this is an affordable housing facility, beautiful, pool, everything. What I love about that is that there is not a specific unit that is assigned as affordable housing. There are a percentage of units that are assigned as affordable housing, and what that allows is that units get rotated, and you can have a full fare person moving in, and you can have an affordable person moving out or in to that. And that spreads out. What it also does, it puts people who need assistance in affordable housing close to jobs, transportation, and opportunity. And you have them right next to people who are going to work every day. And that just changes the entire dynamic around affordable housing. So I think that we need to expand more programs like that.
So
If I could just do a brief follow-up. So you, in expanding the program, I guess your answer would be introducing legislation in terms of creating bonds, because I'm assuming that those types of things are not in place right now.
Yeah, expanding it across the state and not just because we have it in local authorities and some authorities do it and other authorities don't. So we have some authorities that focus primarily on projects, for example, and other authorities that do it in more of the, using the business community to expand those.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So, let's see. Okay, Mr. Butler, please.
Well, first of all, I'm Joshua Butler, and I'm the only person on this diocese that's ever owned affordable housing. I've owned apartment buildings and single-family homes that had affordable housing. Let me break it down like this. When you go and buy your home, you have to spend a 20% down payment, correct? These nice homes we have in South Fulton.
No.
But, well, maybe not, you didn't, maybe you had more than 20% to do that. But I tell you what, when Arthur Blank wanted to build $1 billion dome downtown, he got his down payment from the state. That's how we make more affordable housing. We have to decide how we prioritize our citizens, and the government's role and legislators' role in that is how do we incentivize developers to do that? I am the developer that's done that. In fact, I'll tell you what happened. My first apartment building was on John Wesley Dodge. And I tell you, I bought it in the 90s. And if you look at that area right now and how it has changed from going from low-end rental into this high-end, beautiful place, but still has mixed use where you have both low-end and high-end people living together. That's affordable housing. And I owned apartments in that area. So to answer your question directly, the role of a state legislator is to try to incentivize developers like myself to build affordable housing. And the way that you do that is to have mixed development, mixed income development.
And so that can be done through additional legislation. That's what I'm hearing.
That's exactly what you get.
Okay. All right, Mr. Johnson.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to take a slightly different route. Having worked in Fulton County in the state legislature, I understand that it's really about empowering your local elected officials. They are the ones that actually make the decisions. There's one decision that a state legislator could make, but everything else is left up to your local elected officials. The thing that I want to talk about empowering them is having an incentive for public officials, like your fire officials, your safety officials, your firemen, your police officers, people like that. The city of Atlanta has done it. We can do that in other areas in District 62, as well as homestead exemptions. Now, that's the area where a state legislator can actually come in and make the house more affordable. You give a homestead exemption, but you have to work with your local elected officials because you don't want to cripple them while trying to help people at the same time. Another thing you can do is, as we all know, this area is called a tax allocation district. And when building a tax allocation district, what you do is you include in the provisions of that tax allocation district a certain percentage of affordable housing. Like, for instance, a lot of people don't realize that over in Atlantic Station is entirely a tax allocation district, yet there's a certain percentage of affordable housing that Fulton County said you must have in order to build this place. Several other ones, including Caroline Street, Union City is trying to build one as well. But all you have to do is make sure that when you give these tax allocation districts and other developers the opportunity to, that's their tax incentive, to build these places, you include an affordable housing component to it.
That's a great responses, and because that's an issue. And I just read yesterday that people may sell their houses, but they may not be and want to upgrade, but because of this this housing supply is a little challenged. So, so thank you for that. We're going to get to an issue that a lot of people are concerned about, and that is the cityhood issue. Now, I'm not going to waste everybody's time by asking the obvious question. Okay, I'm not going to waste the time of the community folks by asking the obvious question. But so what I'm going to do something a little different, and that is assuming the cityhood referendum passes by the voters, and once a city of South Fulton is up and running, I'd like to know your thoughts in terms of what are the next steps that you could envision. For instance, we saw that cities in the north, immediately upon their incorporation, had some challenges in terms of their property taxes and that type of thing. So after a new city is adopted, so we're not going to ask whether or not you support. I think it was a given that everybody does. What are some steps, assuming the referendum is adopted and next March we would be voting on, and also assuming that the mayor and council would be chosen in March. So what are some things that you could see to try to improve, to reduce the type of challenges that a new city would have? And I'm going to start again with Mr. Bodie.
I think first, Mr. Carr, is that the state legislator, the District 62 state rep, has to be a facilitator. It's going to be very important for the state rep to jump in very early to help this process come together. Because first and foremost, with a cityhood, a new city, if it's voted upon on November 8th and the citizens want the city of South Fulton, that means that between that time and March of next year, that things need to happen. One of the most important thing is parks and recreations and facilities. We all know fire station. The fire stations in this area, unincorporated South Fulton, will have to be purchased by the new city of South Fulton, $500. We have parks and recreation. I think it's $100 an acre. All that deals with money. And it's going to be a situation where we got to also look at possibly a transitional type of team, because the city of South Fulton has to hit the ground running on the first day of business. So that means that you need to have a police chief, you need to have things in place, but also the state legislature is going to be an important part of this puzzle, because they're going to need to sit down with the county commission. They're going to need to also deal with the other elected officials in this area to make sure this works. Also, we're going to need to have town halls to let the citizens know what to expect, because a lot of times citizens don't know what to actually expect when they have a new city of South Fulton or a new city period. So we need to make sure they know every step of the way what's going to happen, what's that timeline going to be.
So basically, and this is a conversation with all the candidates. I guess what we would like to know is what are some things, and that's definitely a starting point, Mr. Bodie. But what are some things specifically as well, legislatively, that could be done to try to address some of these issues in advance, to ensure, and I'm directing this to you, Mr. Rafer Johnson, but I think you get the question next. Would you be inclined to some options about, because the city of South Fulton will have a lot of seniors, and I know that when I worked in the Capitol, a lot of the cities were looking for and got homestead exemption from school taxes. Now, as you know, when you're exempting taxes, that brings less money into the coffers. So, striking that balance, and something else that Mr. Bodie talked about in terms of the the purchase of equipment, what are some specific things that you could think of to address these issues as a new legislator dealing with a new city?
Okay. First off, vote yes on the referendum come November 8th for the city of South Fulton. And for those of you who are in unincorporated South Fulton, and even for the neighboring cities, it's something that will help all of us rise, because I have a vision of Southwest Metro area working together, all these cities working together as part of the Fulton County group. To answer your question, and we talked about this, remember the difference between the future city of South Fulton and some of the north cities that you touched on is that they were taking pieces and trying to figure out what they would have. The difference is we exist as a city for all intents and purposes today. We pay all of our taxes, we pay all of our bills as we stand today. So we wouldn't have the challenges, for example, that Sandy Springs has, and then having to figure out what they would pay for, what they would own, etc. We know exactly what we would have once we start day one. The opportunity in terms of purchasing, what you just talked about. The other thing in terms of the opportunity around the affordable housing or the senior housing, there's a $19 million surplus that is projected from Georgia State study. We can use some of that money to look at the opportunity around putting in the exemptions for seniors. And that's something I would be in favor of, but we would have to study it a little bit more closely. But again, starting off the city, and again, the last thing before I close is there's a 2-year transition period from the county. So we don't have to start on day one. There's a transition period.
Thank you, Joshua. What are some of your thoughts, and do you have a different approach from what we just heard?
Well, I think the quickest way to success in anything that you try to do is to model something that's successful. What I think is we have a tremendous opportunity to build a beautiful planned community. One of the most successful business models or city models that I've seen is Peachtree City. And just imagine, if you will, if we had bike trails and rolling golf cart trails where we can really plan something for people who have lived in this community that have been lacking in those type of amenities for so long. And it doesn't cost that much to do that. You know, the state representative's job is to help facilitate that with the local leadership. So it is a tandem opportunity. So with the newly elected officials, we have a beautiful opportunity to create something that's beautiful, that's well planned, that's well thought out. And the best way to do that is to model successful city rollouts.
Mr. Aaron Johnson, do you think that do you envision local legislation perhaps in the 2018 legislative session that would address some of these issues dealing with a city of South Fulton in terms of property tax? Do you see anything along the lines that the charter right down the pike may need to be adjusted? I mean, what are some of your thoughts, again, as a freshman legislator dealing with a new city and bringing it, you know, from foundation to fruition?
Well, having worked already at Fulton County during a time period that Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, and Milton became cities, and having the opportunity to see what they went through, and working as the liaison from the chairman's office to the state legislature and seeing how they worked it out, I don't believe that there's a lot that's going to happen legislatively in the 2018 session. Most everything that needs to start the process, I believe, is already there. And when I say that, as we talk about, for instance, taxes, I believe the taxes should stay static for at least 2 years, because if you start changing taxes, you're changing your bottom line initially, and you don't even know what you have yet. So let the local elected officials be elected, do their job, get an opportunity to see, all right, this is what they said we have, this is what we actually have. And that gives you an opportunity to determine, okay, now we can take this surplus and move it to change, you know, the homestead exemption or whatever else it may be. As it relates to the transition plan, we have 2 years to transition from by ourselves with Fulton County. So with the police, the fire, the parks, and all of that, we have an opportunity to let Fulton County handle that while we get our local elected officials in place first, and then they have the ability to work with the commissioners to transition and then learn exactly what they need to do.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. During this past legislative session, House Bill 22 would have provided full HOPE funding for students at students at technical colleges. And for those who do not know, when I ran 4 years ago, I was the GAE endorsed candidate. So education was my primary focus. Stacey Evans of Cobb, her initiative was trying to transform it from being need-based to, she wanted it from academic achievement to need-based, and it died. What are some ideas that you have? Because we clearly know, for those of you who've been around Georgia, we know that the Hope Scholarship 20 years ago is not the way it is today. And so specifically, what are some ideas that you have to fully fund HOPE? And if it means casino gambling, for instance, then you know, give us what your thoughts are. Counselor Bodie.
Well, first I would say, Ms. Carr, is that the government, the state government, has to stop siphoning from education. The governor, over the last 8 years, have subtracted about $4 to $5 trillion from education. So if we would just fund education and let education be there as it's supposed to be, this wouldn't be an issue. Myself personally, coming out of Bannock High School in 1995, I had a full HOPE scholarship to Valdosta State University, and I understood that meant that I had tuition paid and I had books paid. So I feel like at that time the GPA level was about 2.7 or 2.8, but what that allowed me to do is to be able to go to school. So I honestly feel like having a system where it is need-based is needed. So what we have to do is team with all the colleges and universities to have those presidents to demand the money for a HOPE scholarship, as well as citizens to use for what it's supposed to be used for. So I don't think it's a situation of ideals externally that we need to come up with. We just need to demand the money that is already there for our students and to fund the next generation.
Okay. So, Rafer Johnson, I know that you've had a lot of experience outside of Georgia. Okay. What are some of your thoughts specifically about the HOPE Scholarship? Because just as Mr. Bodie said, in the mid-90s, it paid your full ride. Now it barely pays, for chewing gum in your back pocket. We're getting to that level. So, is the issue demanding the full funding, or because the other challenge is this issue of rural schools and metro schools, the equalization funding. So, how specifically would you try to tackle that? Assuming you are representative.
We have to grow the pie. We have to start by growing the pie. I agree with Bodie that we need to put the money back. Taking $8.5 billion out and putting 1.5 back, and the governor saying he's did the funding the most, etc., is a definitely misleading. You have to put the 8.5 back and then put another $1 billion on top of it. That being said, we have to grow the pie. We have to look at how we work with our corporations, work in our communities. We have corporations moving south. Just like we got Hollywood South, I envision that we will have FinTech South, for those who are financial technology south. So we need to look at the opportunity. Silicon Valley is overpriced. Companies are looking for incubation startups, so how they bring them here. We bring more businesses here, we grow the pie, we fund it, and I do think that casinos is one of the ways to go, because there's no reason we can't, if we find the right location, and I know I've talked to legislators who are looking for that opportunity in their area, not in our area right now, but near us, as they expand the Aerotropolis opportunity for this area to build casinos and look at, so legislatively look at how we fund that through that process to grow the Hope Scholarship so that it is need-based and that we should look for the opportunity. Georgia students should be supported to compete on a global level, not just the local.
Mr. Butler, you have been a close observer of the process for at least the last couple of sessions. You will have the, assuming you were elected, you would have the ability of pressing the button.
Right.
Okay. What are some of the things specifically about this issue that you would tackle? Because we're talking about the budgetary issue.
Right.
Okay. And the fact that the only thing that legislators are required to do is adopt a budget.
Right.
Specifically about education, what are some things that you observed that as a legislator to address this issue that you would address?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. We have to take our government back. Many of you know when Zell Miller first came up with the Hope Scholarship, based on the lottery, it was needs-based. And so what they changed that to now, they call the new cards at UGA Hope Scholarship cards, because what the legislators have done is they've reduced the needs base, and then, so it wasn't based on your income. So they got rid of that requirement. So people are millionaires who can afford to send their kids to college now get the benefit of the Hope Scholarship, and it's against what we voted for originally. We voted for lottery so that we can afford opportunities for people to go to college. And it's turned to something totally different. It's a subsidy for the rich. So we have to do two things. We do have to explore how do we increase the pie. That's one thing we do. But we have the second thing we do, we have to tackle the real issue is, why was this legislation changed from something that was based on need to something that's based on want? Because these kids, they go to UGA, they get these Hope Scholarship cards, their parents live on the other side of town, and they're millionaires, and it's not in which we voted to have the lottery system here. And so even if we do get casino gambling, what are we gonna ensure that we just don't keep edifying the rich? That's my legislative job.
Mr. Aaron Johnson, what are some of your thoughts? Because unlike these three gentlemen, you are a product of South Georgia, and you know the issue, the challenge of the equalization. So mindful of all of that, what are some of the things that you would think of, and do you agree with that position in terms of demanding more money, and if so, how would you go about doing that?
Well, first off, I think that of all the people sitting up here, I'm the most interested in this issue, given I have a daughter who's a sophomore in college. So I would love the Hope Scholarship, and I think my wife would agree. But the bigger issue is we've got to understand there's a difference between the Hope Scholarship and the Education Fund. So we're talking about two different things. The Hope Scholarship is specifically for college tuition. Now, with that, they're right. Over the course of the years, every state legislator stipends a little bit off for different things. So what they've had to do is change the requirements for it. So it went from 2.7 to 3.0, and then it went from full tuition down to, full ride down to just tuition. What we have to do first and foremost is lock it. We have to be able to say, look, this is only for college education, nothing else, and that way we'll be closer to fully funding Hope. But what we also have to do is watch the increase that we're giving to all of our university schools. If you look over the past 10 years, the university schools have risen, their tuition, their fees, everything has risen exponentially. So that's also another drain on the Hope Scholarship. So those are the two basic issues that we have to look at first before we can consider doing anything else.
I hope that the Democratic agenda next session will adopt language like this, because all of these positions are very important, and we know that Hope has educated millions of students. I remember when Bill Clinton used Hope as a national example. We don't hear anybody talking about Hope on a national anymore. And I think that all of us, I think there's a consensus that we want to try to bring it back to what was intended back in 1993. We have a question that was submitted from the audience, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your question, and I want to thank you for the clarity in your question. What is your position on introducing and or supporting legislation on increasing the mandatory school attendance age from 16 to 18 or at least 17? Whoever, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bowden.
Well, that's just excellent. It's an excellent question.
Yes.
I am in total agreement, Judge Edwards. And the reason why is because at the age of 16, we should not allow our young students and young people to make that type of decision. We know when you get to college at the age of 18, you can vote, you can go out and do a lot of things, but you're still not ready yet to make those type of life decisions. How can we let a 16-year-old make a life decision? Because we know that right now, a high school diploma is the bare minimum. I have, in my practice in dealing with criminal justice clients and families, they was like, well, I'm just going to drop out and get a GED. No. You need to stay there and get your high school diploma, because what that do is put you in a structured environment to get you ready for technical school, for college, or for some other type of vocation. So I'm adamant about that. I think that's excellent. I think the age should be 18. If you can vote at the age of 18, you should be able to make the decision whether you want to keep going to school or not. I know a lot of people say, well, 18, you're out of school by then, you graduated. But no, a lot of students are graduating at the age of 18, or they're going into their senior year. So at least the age of 17 should be that barrier, because at the age of 17, you could be arrested and you could be charged as a felon. So that should probably be the age of 17 to make that decision.
Okay, Mr. Rafer Johnson.
I assume that by the question, Judge Edwards, you mean physically you mean in a education process, not exclusively in a high school. And I make that distinction because we have different ways of being educated today. There's homeschooling, there's different types of school. We have 16-year-olds that are going off to college and attending college campuses. So I assume that you mean being in the process, not exclusively at a high school. With going with that assumption, I would absolutely support that, that they remain in the process. We have to change our education system. A lot of this was based on the farm system. So they needed bodies to go work on farms. So they were pulling kids out of school because they were able-bodied 16-year-olds to go work on farms. We're not in that environment anymore, so we need to change our laws to support the modern-day economy. And so I would support staying in school and working through that. I'd go even further than that and say that we need to look at the opportunities around year-round school. I know that's not the question, but we have to flip our education system to set our kids up to succeed and compete in a global economy. We cannot keep the current education system where we are preparing followers and not leaders. America is based on innovation and leadership. We need to prepare our kids to be leaders and innovators.
All right. Thank you so much. do you disagree with that? And so what are your thoughts, Mr. Butler?
Well, first of all, better schools I'm very passionate about that. And anything that we can do to give our kids a better education, I'm all for it. Because let me tell you why and how it directly affects the Camp Creek Business Association. We are business people here. And truancy is a leading indicator of crime. When you don't have a kid in school, they're out there kicking in doors or robbing, breaking into cars and doing things like that. So first of all, as a business leader, we want to prevent that. We need to, and so the longer you can keep kids in school, the safer it is for our communities. And that leads to better jobs. It also leads to a higher standard of living in that area. So better schools, anything that's going to do something to make our schools better, I'm all for it. And so we have to, in addition to that, when we start talking about better schools, we need to analyze why are these kids not graduating? Why are they dropping out of school? Why is there a high truancy rate? One thing we have to do is we have to adopt our educational system to the 21st century. We are still trying to educate kids based on 19th century technology. And we have to do a better job about that. I have a plan to do all of those things. And you can go to my website, joshuabutler462.org, and that outlines my plan because we must insist that we have better schools for our kids.
I'm gonna go a little different. As Kip mentioned earlier, I'm the only one up here that's actually from South Georgia. I'm the only one up here probably that has actually seen somebody leave school at 16 and become a millionaire by taking over their parents' business. And being from South Georgia, I understand that there is an Atlanta and the rest of Georgia. And all too often in Atlanta, we come up with ideas that doesn't work necessarily for the rest of Georgia. And one thing I like to tell people, I have rural roots with a metro mentality. I have a good combination of both thoughts. So what I believe we need to do is maybe create a program where if you have to, for whatever reason, leave at the age of 16, there is a completion process that you have to go through. We might call it a GED, we might call it some other program, but a program that if you leave, you have completed a certain level. Before you leave, you completed a certain level of education. And I say that because we have to, as a state legislator, what you have to do is go outside of 285 and talk to legislators and talk to communities to see what their issues are, because just because the issues in Atlanta are not always the issues in the state of Georgia, and issues that are outside of Atlanta are affected by issues that are made at the state capitol. So these are some of the things that I think that we can do in order to find that happy balance between the two.
Okay. I think that is that's definitely a concern, and I know that when I was talking to the GAE folks back in 2012, that was one thing that they wanted my position on, was the fact of what can we do and how can we effectively address this issue. And I had a conversation with both the Douglas and the Fulton Education Association presidents, and obviously if we're going to create a world-class education system, we're going to have to think differently than what we've been doing. So thank you so much for that question. We have time for one additional question as we wrap up. And this is a very, very brief response that I'm looking for. At the first day of the session in January 2017, as a new member of the House, one of your first votes will be for Speaker. Who will you vote for Speaker? And we're going to start with Mr. Bodie. All I need is just a name and just go down the line. Okay, thank you.
Stacey Abrams.
Okay, Rafer.
Yeah, it would be whoever our minority leader is. So
Okay.
presumably.
All right, Mr. Butler.
I have to agree with the minority leader statement. Stacey Abrams is that leader right now, so I will support the party.
Okay.
I would go with minority leader.
Okay. Thank you very much for
Wait, we
that.
can't vote for ourselves?
And the reason that question is asked is that, and some of you legislative veterans know that when we have first-time freshmen, they may be coerced into doing other things away from the party to get special parking spaces and offices. So there was a reason for that question. We now have time for our closing statements. We want to thank you again for taking time out of your day to be with us on Camp Creek Parkway. Counselor, we're going to start with you for your closing statement.
Well, I guess I'll stand up. I want to just say to everybody, thank you so much for being here. This was a great experience. Thank you to Michael Davis, awesome presentation and format. Thank you to Kip Carr. You guys did a great job in facilitating and putting this together. But I would like to say that I'm the most complete candidate right now, today, for District 62. And the reason why is really twofold. I am a product of District 62, first and foremost, and I'm connected throughout District 62 on both sides. What is a product of District 62? I was born in Atlanta, Greater Memorial Hospital. My family moved to South Fulton in 1988. We moved into unincorporated College Park in Point Ridge, and I grew up knowing that I don't know where I live at exactly, okay? Because when the mail came, sometimes it said College Park, sometimes it said Atlanta. Also, we had our water through the city of Atlanta, and we paid for our garbage. But I've been through the school systems. I graduated from Bannock High School in 1995. I went to Woodland Middle School. I went to Dotson Drive Elementary School, both schools in East Point. So I know the rhythm of South Fulton. Also, I'm a product of both counties that encompass District 62. A lot of people don't know that 33,000 residents live in unincorporated or South Fulton portion of District 62, as well as East Point, College Park. But we have 21,000 that lives in Douglas County. So I want to take my experience and being a part of the South Fulton Chamber of Commerce and being a part of the Douglas County Chamber of Commerce and being a part of Let Us Make Man and being a part of the Douglasville Housing Committee to bring all that together to push District 62 to higher levels. Because I know the people, I dealt with the businesses, I know the politics, and I want to take my experience and all of that and where I'm from to push District 62 to the next level.
Good morning once again, and thank you all for being here in your time. Michael, Kip, my mother-in-law who flew in from Dallas to be here and help me with the campaign. And we have a good panel. We were talking about this earlier, about the fact that we are blessed in this district to have good candidates running for this. Like, we were debating which ones we can go, some other races, but this is an opportunity not just to choose your next representative, your new representative, to deal with the current issues of today, but it's about the future. That's what you hire, and this is a job interview as far as I'm concerned, and I'm asking you to hire me as your next state representative, as your new state representative. It's not just to deal with the issues of today, but how do we lay out a vision for 20 years from now? I remember living on Old National Highway when we didn't have this on Camp Creek. When I had to go down to South Lake or go into the city and I've been in the city now since almost 20 years in the metro area. It's about a vision. What is the opportunity? What is our next vision for 20 years from now? We have people moving into the district, right, literally across the street from my house right now. They're building new homes. So we are growing over 100%. We've grown over 100% in the last 8 years, just in this area. And Douglasville is doing the same thing. We have the opportunity to look forward to what that vision looks like. What are the opportunities? How do we incorporate business, nonprofit, and private sector and use that collaboration? How do we help East Point become more business friendly, more development? How do we use historic downtown East Point as a benchmark to figure out how we develop that going forward? We have the opportunity to pull all of the different areas, the suburban, rural, and downtown areas together, work as a collaborative opportunity to engage our businesses, provide opportunities to grow going forward. And I believe I'm your candidate using my experience in corporate, private, and nonprofit sector to bring it to the table at the Capitol. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to ask you to believe in Joshua Butler right now, because some of the things that we must tackle is right now. I am District 62. I moved here in 1984. I've been here since I was 14 years old. I remember when there was a Robinson Cadillac in East Point. But I'm also here to tell you that I'm a business guy. Business is what paved my way through Morehouse College. I started a business while I was in school. And after I left Morehouse College, I became the #1 SBA lender for Bank of America for the state of Georgia. So I am business. I'm here today to talk to the business community. But there are some things that we must talk about right now. Let me ask you a question. Don't you want a person that's been in the meetings already? I'm the only candidate that's been in the meetings already. In fact, we're about to spend more than $100 million in DOT money right now in this area. And I know how to get you a piece of that money. Because we need more businesses on the south side to take advantage of that money. I've been in the meetings. In fact, the cannabis bill. Last year they tried to pass the cannabis bill. But the Black Caucus said they want to give 6 licenses. They said, we want one of those licenses. And they will not give one of those licenses to a minority contractor. And we're talking about billions of dollars. I'm here to ask you to support better schools, better jobs, and a safer community right now. I have been in the meetings. I am here to serve. Remember Joshua Butler. Thank you.
Mr. Aaron Johnson.
All right. Oh, good morning, everybody, again, and thank you, Michael and the Camp Creek Business Association and Kip again for moderating this conversation. Again, I'm Aaron Johnson, and I want you to think about 2 things. I want you to think about experience, and I want you to think about community involvement. My experience is unparalleled on this panel. I'm the only candidate that has worked on all 4 levels of government. I've already worked with the city, I currently work with the county, I've already worked on the state level, and I work on the federal level, which is what a state legislator has to do. Contrary to popular belief, I've been to 1 or 2 meetings at the state capitol as well. I've worked for 2 chairmen at the state capitol. I was the liaison from the chairman's office to the state capitol with the Fulton County delegation. So I've worked pretty closely with the state legislature over the past 20 years. I've had the fortune of working with Governor Barnes when he was governor, seeing a little different side of how the state legislature really works, but also community involvement. My wife and I, we chose to live in District 62. No, I'm from South Georgia. I was not born here. But when we look for a home, when we look for a place to raise our children, when we look for a place to get involved in the community, we chose this area. We chose this area before it was open. It was an open seat. We chose this area at a time when it was coming up. Our family is here. Our church is here. Our children are involved here, and we're both involved here. I've worked as the Director of Constituent Services for Fulton County, and in that capacity, I work for the people of South Fulton, and I want to take that experience and work for the people of South Fulton and Douglas counties. I know that I have the capacity to do the job and do the job well. ElectAaronJohnson.com. Check me out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thank you again for coming.
I want to thank our candidates for bringing us with this remarkable conversation we've had. Now we have 2 additional candidates that are on the ballot, but for the most part, it's these gentlemen here that will be the ones who we think will move on. I want to thank the Camp Creek Business Association and Michael Davis, not just for this forum and not just for your advocacy of issues on the Camp Creek corridor, but for all of your leadership and everything that you have done. So let's give Michael Davis a round of applause. there's a couple of things that I just want to be clear about, and that is that when Ecclesiastes tells us for everything there is a season. I'm having an incredible time on this side and not that side. I will be reposting on Facebook again that I decided when I chose not to run that I'm not getting in it because in a democracy, in a true democracy, we don't have kings or queens, but it's the people that make the choice. And so I appreciate again the invitation for the Camp Creek Business Association, and hopefully, Michael, in maybe late July, we'll do this all over again with maybe 2 of these guys. So thank you again.
First off, I want to send a round of applause for Kip and the candidates. This is very good. The most important thing today is that we've captured this video-wise. We had a good audience today. There's a lot of people that aren't here. We'll be posting this out via our social media platforms. So if, I know the candidates will, but if everyone here could share this information and share the video when it's out in a week or so to those that couldn't make it today, so that we have as many people that are going to be voting, can see the information, can hear the discussion, and see each of the candidates, that would be a great help for us. Thank you for your time, and please engage the candidates while they're here. You guys have a great Thursday. Thank you.
See you in a couple hours.